Well, I'm joined by Edge MHK, was a member, of course, DOI, and you've gone now. I mean, Mr. Morehouse went last couple of weeks, I think it was. Asked him for an interview, he actually didn't come back to us. But what's going on? I mean, this was your last department as well, I think you're on.
Yes, yeah. I've only had
the
post office chair now, so
and that's
not
counted the same way, is
it? No, it's not. You know, you're obviously I'll take a pay cut of 30%, which I'm quite prepared to do.
That's a big one, isn't it?
You know, I have spoken to the Chief Minister and said I'm happy to go into another role, but I couldn't believe, and obviously Mr. Morehouse made a quicker reaction than I did when he left, but you know, to go to a department meeting where the discussions were supposedly to take place of what we were going to all move forward with in the next 18 months and what we could achieve, for the new minister to just sit there and say, well, I've invited an MLC and she's doing your job. So I thought at that point, well, I did make my views known, and I said, so an unelected member of Tynwald is going to be taking on a high policy role in housing and public estates you know, for the island. And I just, at that point, I just thought, I've got to start thinking about the island and the people here and my constituents, because, you know, but although it's a housing role and public estates for the island, it's about people mainly.
Can we break this all down? I mean, how does it all happen? You were given this fait accompli by Sandsford, privately, with one-to-one with Mr. Baker?
No, it was with officers in the department. It was a departmental policy and strategy meeting, and
you just got told that's it.
That's it. No pre-consultation about it. We'd had a brief that we had to bring along what we wanted to achieve in the next 18 months, which I did, but we didn't get that opportunity to discuss it. So. Really disappointing at the way it's been handled. I'd only received a new delegation from the new minister on I think it was the 12th or 13th of June. So, but then, you know, to say that they'd been discussing it with an MLC since that point in time, I just felt very, very badly handled. Not the way I don't believe any minister should behave, and obviously, you know, I've thought about it for a couple of weeks.
Constructive dismissal, would it be in the real world?
I actually confirmed in writing the discussion that I had following the policy and strategy meeting. I confirmed it in writing. And asked for it to be confirmed to me, which it wasn't. It was done verbally, and that was the exact words that were used. You wrote it like a constructive dismissal. Well, that's exactly how it felt.
Right.
You know, you're in a departmental meeting with officers, and I just thought, to me, you should discuss with your political members who are there to support you in Tynwald, in Parliament, what any issues there are and how we can move forward, before announcing something like that with officers. So.
DOI is troubled, let's put it that way. I mean, where's the problem? I mean, is it the MHK? Is it the CEO? I mean, what's going on in there? I mean, you've been inside that tent.
I've been inside that tent, Paul, but I have focused, and you know, I don't like silo thinking or anything, but I had to focus on my areas. They were big responsibilities. It was the biggest budget responsibility within the department, and I had to focus on that. Where I feel it lacks any, I suppose the area that the department really does lack is communication. We see that constantly. There's announcements that are made that are fait accompli without any discussion with political members, and these are. Yeah. This is where, to me, you know, if you haven't got your political members coming along with you, with the previous minister, you know, where are you going to be? Because all you can do is work with your officers. Now, that's not what the people of the Isle of Man elect you for. They elect you to be representing them and make sure the right things are done.
So again, is it MHK? You know, is it the leadership MHK wise, or is it officer wise? Who's running the ship? I suppose.
Well, clearly with the new minister, you know, I did feel during these meetings that he'd had such a short time to get any view. Well, he hadn't got any views from myself or Mr. Morehouse. So, and that's where it was really disappointing. You know, you would sit your political members down, surely, and speak to them and establish any areas.
Well, he's a new boy, first time in that job.
And I wish him luck, you know, because it's
so
a tough job. So.
I'm still trying. Was he guided? I don't want to put any words in your mouth, but is he kind of moved around? Because I mean, they've gone through ministers, and the top people in that department, you know, the actual civil service people have been there some time, and we keep hearing things what's going on in there. But I'm trying to get you to tell me where you think the issues are.
Obviously, in Tynwald, a week or so before, when Minister Thomas departed from Minister of Policy and Reform, obviously the Minister from DOI went into that role, and obviously Mr Baker got the position. There was a debate as soon as he was Minister with regards to housing and the future of housing for the island and an all-island policy. Well, the department had developed a housing strategy within the remit of what we could with the legislation that we can do, and we had 7 high-level principles, and those principles then get developed into a broader strategy. This debate, I felt, was premature. I stated that during the debate. And I'll be quite honest, Paul, I felt like the minister that had left the Department of Infrastructure had gone into a new role, and he thought, well, there's lots of successes coming along the way here, and I felt like, oh, well, I'm going to deliver them now. And I really do feel that there was a complete lack of understanding during that debate from many members of what hard work has been done certainly within housing, and the relationships that have been built with the local authorities. And we've moved a long way. We've got shared waiting lists, we've got reduced waiting lists, we've got the 5-year fixed tenancies working effectively, and obviously a mid-rent scheme for people on the island, which is sort of like, it's not a rent to buy, but very similar, that you get a higher than a social housing rent, but the property is equipped with the white goods and carpets, and it gives you the opportunity to save for a deposit to go into the first time buyers, and that's been a success as well. So
you think you've done a good job where you were?
I can certainly, I feel that we have.
So why did you lose it then?
Well, that was what astounded me, Paul. It was like no discussion to find out where it was. I've always come in. The budget for the department has always been managed well. It was £33 million budget, never overspent, delivered Clough-Vane on target and everything. And that was what astounded me. It's great for an MLC to come into the department. Don't say, I don't disagree that they shouldn't be in departments, but
hang on, MLCs aren't meant to be.
Well, they're not meant to be. They should be. They're in one, and I think Tynwald accepts one, and they do.
The wish of Tynwald was not to have them doing more than that.
Not more. No.
Let's get on with
serious. I think that's a serious concern for the island more than anything.
An unelected official, I think you put in your thing.
Yes, yeah.
Ms. Masker, did she want that job? I mean, what's going on behind here? That she could have moved to another department, apart of your department, and you kept where you were, right?
And she could have been involved with housing no matter where she was. If she wanted to be on DOI, and the minister wanted her to have her in 2 departments, she could have done the promenade. She's been very vocal about that, and she could have had input into housing and public estate. But to bring somebody in and say you're bringing them in because you need support and there's challenges ahead, why do you put them in the division that's working effectively within budget?
Did she want
There's plenty of divisions that are.
But did she want that?
I believe that's, I have had discussions with the minister, and that's where she felt her skill set was. So, and that's what really I just thought.
Oh, now that opens another can of worms then. That she wanted that. If that's, I mean, you've heard that. Is that.
Well, I've had many discussions with the minister, and the minister did say to me he wanted me on the department, and I could pick from what was left.
Pick from what's left.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty.
Yeah.
Oh
gosh. Paul, when you've managed something well, and there was never any reason to doubt I hadn't, because I'd never been pulled up on anything. Developing policy that's about to come to fruition, it's really disappointing to then be told an MLC is coming in to do that role. Now, I think it's following the debate that we had in Tynwald, and clearly Minister Harmer's gone into the Cabinet Office, and they've got to come back with a report to Tynwald in October on housing. And I feel it's that, but I'll know come October, won't I?
Right.
So.
You've sat on this for a couple of weeks now. Why didn't you just go when Jason Morehouse went?
Well, I did discuss it with Jason, and I said, look, because to be honest, Jason and I had discussions prior to change of ministers or anything, because there was a lot of things that we weren't comfortable with. There did seem to be pre-meetings taking place, and I'm very conscious that I want to be involved in the decision-making process, because there's always, in politics, people are very quick to blame, aren't they? And I don't want to be blamed for something that I haven't been involved in the decision-making process.
Some people think you're getting out at the right time, probably. I mean, DOI is just going through such a, promenade, I mean, which wasn't your thing. I mean, you must, again, do you have any inside knowledge of what's going on there?
Well, as I say, Paul, there's so much that goes on that you're not aware of as a political member, and I was constantly saying, keep us informed, we can support, we can help you.
So you don't know what's going on? They don't tell you?
There's an awful lot goes on that changes without, because it's not your area of responsibility.
Sure.
And of course Mr Baker was responsible for highways and ports prior to becoming minister, so and previously the Minister, Ray Harmer, was taking responsibility for the promenade.
I understand you had your specialist subject, but I think people would think, from the outside, that you all had some idea.
In everything, yeah. And I see lots of criticism about that on social media. That you're in the department. You're in the department, but you don't necessarily know everything that's happening. Okay. And it's a big department, and there's a lot of really good, hard-working employees in there, and you can't know everything. But I think there is certain things that members should be involved in to make sure that decision process is the right one for everybody on the island.
Do you think they're doing a good job with the promenade?
I agree. We need to get. I agree. We need to get it finished. Those businesses and our, in some respects, I've walked down there a couple of nights, and I'm thinking it's daylight. Nobody's working. The hotels are empty. Why haven't we come up with a scheme where they can work?
But surely your constituents, amongst others, are stuck in Oncombe in the morning in a massive queue. I understand it's huge. I haven't seen it, but I hear about it.
Since the changes at St Ninians, we had a meeting last Wednesday about it, and I suggested very early on, get the buses and the cyclists using the pit lane and the wider pavement, because there's a bus stop at the end of that runoff from the pit lane, and it takes them away from the highway, but the people on the highway would have the lead, and they would allow the buses and the cyclists in. Now, to me, that would have been a better approach, but it obviously wasn't the right suggestion because it wasn't taken up.
Clearly,
and
though,
now with Summer Hill closing, I just thought, this is it. Oncombe is just going to be.
Is that your tipping point, by the way? Do you want to get the department? Was that why you went this week rather than last week? Then?
Well, after the meeting on Wednesday, and there was myself and Douglas MHK's there as well, and. It wasn't discussed to the extent of it's closing next week for 8-9 weeks. So I just felt that was disingenuous to all honourable members that were there, to be honest. That should have been the focus, because we were trying to look for solutions to the problem at St Ninians. Well, we didn't know that Summerland was going to impact next week. So. No. So how do you make good decisions if you're not listening to everybody? The top
of Victoria Road and the first version, then there was more cones put in the next day, and it seemed like a work in progress, for a few days.
It did, and in some respects I think the opening up and schools going back and things did happen quite quickly. It was announced on a Thursday, it was happening on a Monday, and there is changes like that, and in any construction or big major civil engineering project you're going to come across problems, but there's a way to deal with it and communicate.
The sceptics out there thinking you just jump to get out of this now because get ready for the next election.
Not at all. I felt it was the right thing to do, and it's the right time for me to do it. I will still work hard in everything I'm doing. I've still got the post office. Both areas within DOI and the post office, all the people that I've been responsible for have worked all the way through COVID, and it's we haven't stopped. So
would it be fair to say that Howard Quayle is not your greatest fan? I mean, you're not going to get another position, presumably, or do you think you might?
I've had a discussion with him, and I said I'm happy to take on another position, but obviously I am chair of Social Affairs Policy Review, so I scrutinise some departments, so I can't do that. I've always said that the post office is sponsored by the Department for Enterprise. I'd be interested to go to anywhere that I feel like I could add value, but also add values to your other role. It's a perfect link for the post office, but obviously it's down to the ministers. It's up to them who they
But as we started this conversation, you get this reduction now, 30%, you say?
Yes,
So you would like to go back onto another board because of the money, or you're not driven by that? You've got your bills to pay like everybody else.
I have, Paul, and obviously I'm fortunate that we've still been getting paid during COVID. There's a lot of people that haven't. haven't, but I will find a way, Paul, to make sure that I do the right thing. It's a principled thing. I don't believe it's the right thing for MLCs to be on to departments. That was the first thing. To be told your job's been taken away from you by an MLC when no discussion as to the reasons really why behind it. And, you know, I just felt, no, it's not, now's the right time. Summerhill, you know, emails are just, people are just can't believe what's happening. And I think it's that lack of approach and thought, it seems, for the people. And it's just a case of the job's got to be done and we're going to do it no matter what. And I don't think that's the right approach to anything on the island. However, I have said in meetings, we've had up to 56,000 visitors in TTU. We have shutdowns and lockdowns and roadblocks that we have to put up with. But the people probably would come with you if you explained to them, look, sorry, the pain's going to be for 8 weeks. It's going to be really bad. But once we've got through that, we're going to make improvements in various areas. And I just think the lack of thought and discussion, even with local politicians, is lacking. So, yeah, see, onwards and upwards. I've always worked hard. I've had lots of responsibilities, and I can honestly say I went into politics because I felt there was lack of good financial management. I can prove I've managed my areas well financially. Can't say that for others.